Mm, there we go. Perfect.
Now you are.
It's really an honor to be here with Erica. Erica and I met about 5 years ago, and I spent extensive periods of time in New York, serving a large community there, and our paths crossed through um, deep healing pathways. From the Amazon jungle of Peru to the big jungle of New York. And we've collaborated in some ways. And I was just saying to Erica that I was connecting with her son, Orion, while he was still a sparkle in hers and Paul's eyes. And I remember connecting with Erica in energy healing treatments and feeling the essence of this incredible being that she opened up the gates to come in, Orion. And I remember just attuning to hers and Paul's field and feeling how absolutely obvious and clear their pathway was towards Orion's conception. But it was beyond amazing to witness them from afar, from a distance, in the way that they listened to the guidance of the soul of their son from the time of preconception and followed through and trusted that mystery. Erica, I think, holds one of the most unique combination perspectives of ancient wisdom and medicine traditions and modern medicine. So she really, through the weaving of multiple different disciplines, delivers an incredibly holistic perspective on many things. I am the creator of Luminescence Fertility and Pre-Procreation Program, and Erica has watched me. I love how you said, Erica, I watched you brick by brick these last 5 years put this together. I've said multiple times that, yeah, this has been a 10-year living gestation. And the timing for it to come in was precisely now, even to my surprise. And while I've been, doing a lot to bring this program together, anyone who's ever created an endeavor of this caliber or program of this caliber know it's a lot of work. It's also been incredible to witness that there have been very specific people that hold very specific keys for this program. And so we have some of the facilitators here. Kate Birch is one of them. And Kate Birch has authored many books on homeopathy and taught hundreds of homeopathic practitioners across the globe. And she's bringing an incredible piece in. And Erica is bringing in this incredible piece as well. Oh, Anne Weinstein is here. Amazing. Welcome, Anne. And Erica is bringing in this piece, which she's going to share so much with you about today, on transforming the notion of geriatric pregnancy into a pathway of intergenerational healing. So I'm so excited, Erica, that you're here. I'm so looking forward to just sitting back and listening to your story. So welcome. And just so everyone here is aware, this will be 75 minutes, starting 10 minutes ago. And I'll invite you all to write your questions down or write your questions in the chat. What we'll do is we'll save the questions for the end. There will be a good 15 minutes at the end to ask questions. And Erica is going to answer as many as she can. So yeah, keep everything until the end. Put the questions in the chat box. Sorry, it's very late for me here in Portugal, so I'm stumbling on my words. Questions in the chat box. We can't wait to answer them all. Welcome, Erica. It's so good to see you.
Thank you, Victoria. And thank you all for showing up. Some some faces or names I'm so excited to see, Brooke and Laura. Um, this is a really, really special topic for me. I will tell you a little bit more about me and my background, but I really come to this work as a clinician. I'm a naturopathic doctor and a nurse practitioner, and I worked in clinical medicine for over a decade. And I actually worked in San Francisco pretty much around the time that like all the tech companies like Facebook and Genentech and Google started paying for fertility preservation and both IVF and egg retrieval. And I was in my mid-30s at the time. I did not have a partner. I did not see myself meeting a man on this planet that I thought I would want to mother or parent with. Yet I did not want to have a child on my own. And I knew deep, deep in my every cell of my body that I was going to be a mother. And so I first sort of came to these decisions of like to freeze eggs or not to freeze eggs, or like, what are my thoughts from the perspective of someone who like errs on the side of natural health and natural medicine when it came to treatments like IVF. And I faced all of this stuff first as a clinician with my patients, and also then, in my own personal life. And so I now have a 2-year-old and 2.5, actually, big difference between 2 and 2.5. I met my partner, Paul, at 38. I will tell you more about my story. We absolutely consciously conceived him naturally without any, medical intervention. And the pregnancy was all ease and bliss. And the birth and the first 12 months of his life were the initiation of a lifetime. So I've come to start breaking down into this like initiatory path of motherhood in these 4 stages: getting pregnant, being pregnant, giving birth, and then the first 12 months, when like all of a sudden your heart is running around outside of your body and your nervous system is connected to this person, and you're all of a sudden having to figure out a new orientation to everything, because now you are one heart in 2. And I've worked with a lot of women at different stages of this journey. And one thing I've come to see as very true is that not every one of these stages is easy and not everyone is hard. And each one of us has this like sort of unique constellation of our personal trajectory or initiatory path of motherhood. So that's among what I want to share with you today. I have a presentation here to just sort of keep me on track. So I'm going to share screen, and let's see, it should look okay. Victoria or Zoe, can you just give me the thumbs up that you can see it? Because, okay, technology, you never know. Okay, so I wanted to title this Pregnancy Over 40, and I'd actually really almost like to change that to 35, just because that is sort of the age when the medical system starts using that term geriatric pregnancy. And I want to like really make a case for us why there is a distinct advantage for women to have children older, and turn this notion of geriatric pregnancy into a path of intergenerational healing. And so I'm going to kind of walk you through that, both from my perspective as a practitioner, as a clinician, and then also my perspective as a mom. So this is me. This was me pregnant, actually in Kauai. I think our friend is still there. And yeah, I spent a good part of my pregnancy, which was so beautiful to be connected on that island. And yeah, this is me at 42, pregnant with my son. And it's like, it's a real special honor when I introduce myself. I've done a lot of speaking and teaching and throughout my career. And it's really pretty new and in a rare audience that I start with a devoted mother. And that really is very true these days. My son takes a lot of my time. But I'm also a naturopathic doctor, a nurse practitioner. I was a midwifery student. I dropped out because it ended up not being the right path for me. I'm a Kundalini and Vinyasa teacher and practitioner, a student of plants, a mystic, a lover of the mystery, which was one of the reasons why working in the conventional medical environment was really difficult for me, because it's not a place where like the mystery and the miracle and the unknown are really held space for or even acknowledged at all. And I see that as being a really big obstacle to this initiatory path of motherhood, because it's about the miracle of life. And it is so beautiful. And to think that so many women in our culture are just sort of swept up into the medical system and sitting there under fluorescent lights, bathing in fears and conditioning, and not actually getting that beauty of the experience. So in all of my work, I'm very interested in sort of like merging medicine and mysticism and bridging spirituality and health. But this particular area, I feel like it's a really, really important one where it just needs to enter the discussion. So I just want to kind of walk you through the basics. The case for pregnancy later in life. I'm going to talk a lot about how the conventional medical industry and system is not friendly to women over 35 going through conception and pregnancy and birth. But there is data that makes a case for us. And there are studies out there that say when women get pregnant later, it leads to we live longer. There's evidence that there's less cognitive decline during menopause if we conceive later in life. Over 35 is generally what the studies are looking at. Smarter kids is kind of a funny way to term it, but what they've measured is that women who have children over 35, those children go on to higher education, stay in school longer, have more advanced degrees, et cetera. And, and then there's an argument that women who have children later in life have more financial security, and therefore they're able to be a little bit more present with their children. Then I want to really add to that, because I think in my experience, both as a clinician and a mother, there are other things that happen later in life that make us really well suited to be the space holder of a mother. And my partner and I was 42 when we had our son, and he was 39. And we would talk about often like, we're so glad we waited this long because finally we're over ourselves, right? Like before that time period in life, we wanted to travel and we wanted to do this and we wanted to do that. And we weren't really wanting to compromise some of our own desires, our own individualized desires. And by the time we were, almost 40 and 42, we were really ready to devote ourselves to someone else. In older women, a lot of the time when we meet our partners that we're going to parent with later in life, we've learned a lot. We've learned a lot in the earlier heartbreaks. We've learned a lot from earlier divorces. We're more comfortable solo and alone, so we're not settling as quickly as we may have been earlier. And so sometimes there's stronger partnerships when we're older. And, that's the foundation of our little ones' lives in the beginning. And likewise, if we make the decision to single parent, we've prepared for it often. In general, we have more time to prepare when we're over 35. We've had 35 years, right? Instead of 25 years or whatever earlier age we're comparing to. We've had more time to get to know our bodies, more time to have healed ourselves, to have looked at our own wounds and traumas, and ideally to then not project them onto our children. And, as the data says, if we have greater financial security or more career flexibility, we have a greater ability to be present with our kids, which, having a 2.5-year-old, I feel really confident saying, like, that's really all they want, is they just want to be with their mom and dad in these early days. So this is all food for thought, and in no way, if there are women in here listening that are under 35, in no way here am I making the claim that you are unable to do all of this earlier in life. But what I really want to do is shine a light on like what some of the advantages are to having children later in life, because so much of the dominant narrative is telling us not to do that. We can't do that. It's dangerous to do that, etc. So, what it comes down to for me is like conscious parenting is about healing ourselves, being present with our kids, and showing up in a way that we don't just project our wound patterns, our family wound patterns onto our kids. And that's what I call intergenerational healing. So, if these are all true, according to theory and intuition, then it really does set up older moms to be really well equipped to steward this path of intergenerational healing. Okay, here's the case against. You don't need me to spend a lot of time on this, because if you touch the medical system, they will drill it into you. And if you're walking around in this world in this day and age, it's like in the collective field, because what the data says is egg quality drops dramatically over 35. Egg quantity drops over 35, and therefore it's going to be harder to get pregnant. It's going to be less likely to maintain a pregnancy, and it's going to be less likely or more likely that there are, genetic issues or this or that. The other thing the conventional medical paradigm wants us to know about is the health risks of pregnancy, gestational diabetes, preeclampsia, etc. So, those are all like real things, but the amount of focus and emphasis they get in the dominant narrative is like, to me, feels really out of balance. Okay, and then there's just like some basic arguments that sometimes people make for not wanting to have children later in life. That, there's a big generation gap between you and your kids. You might not live as long to see them, live into older age. There's stigma around being an older parent, although I think that is changing. And, and then there's just the reality of potentially not having the same level of vitality and energy that you had when you were in your 20s to run around after a little kid. Okay, so I just want to name these because they're in the field, whether I name them or not. And I don't want to pretend that they're not there. I just want to not focus on them, because this slide is really important. It's like, how much does the data matter? And I come to you both as a mama, but also as a clinician. And when you're a clinician, it doesn't matter if let's say like you take a certain medication that has this very, very rare side effect. 0.02% of people experience this life-changing side effect, right? So you're like, okay, this is like a pretty safe medication. But when the person sitting across from you is the person who has experienced that side effect, you don't care what the data says. It's completely irrelevant, because like that's not what you're focused on. And so I wanted to bring up here, if you're a woman and you're actually listening to this, the risks and what, the conventional medical paradigm wants you to know about, dangers and this and that, you have to think about how much does that dialogue matter to you, right? And it matters differently to different types of people, right? If you're a public health official and you're looking at, premature labor and what the outcomes of that are on a population, you care about data, right? And if you're a fertility specialist that only gets paid if women are afraid and rush into treatments and interventions quickly, like you care about this data. Also, you want good outcomes, right? So you're looking at the data to say, I'm going to use this to make sure I get these women pregnant or meet whatever outcomes we're trying to meet. If you're an OB-GYN or a midwife, you may be a little bit more like middle of the line, right? And help someone think about like the risks of gestational diabetes and high blood pressure. It's a very different conversation if you're talking to a woman who's obese and has a really strong family history of cardiovascular issues and diabetes and is unwilling to change her diet during pregnancy. That data matters maybe more in that clinical scenario than it would if you're sitting across from a 42-year-old woman who runs marathons and eats really healthy and has low blood sugar, right? They're different conversations. So when you're a primary care clinician or an OB/GYN or a midwife, you're thinking a little bit more, hopefully, about like, who is your patient? And what are their needs? How much does this data matter? So, and then ultimately too, your vision for yourself matters the most, right? So for me, I worked in primary care. And if a woman came in to see me and she said, I want to get pregnant by, next January, I don't care what it takes. And she's 42 and has had some fertility workup and the numbers didn't look good, then I might say it might be worthwhile to go do an intake with a fertility specialist now if you're ready to take action. But if someone comes into my office and they say to me, I really want to get pregnant naturally. I haven't met my partner yet. I really want to do it out of love. It's a very different conversation. I'm not going to send you into a fertility specialist who is going to sort of rush you and urge you to take action quickly, right? So we really have to think not just what the data says, but who is looking at it and how much does it matter? Okay, so I mentioned these 4 stages of the initiation into motherhood. This is the case at any age, right? There's the getting pregnant, the being pregnant, the birthing experience, or, what they call labor and delivery in the hospital, and then the first 12 months of baby's life. And so, what I really want to dive into and what I will dive into in the Luminescence program is like the details of how significant are the unique considerations for each of these stages for older women. Now, I've been focusing a lot, or just not focusing, talking about the conventional medical approach to us, to women over 35. And now here's where I get to bash it a little bit, even though I like to show up in a balanced way. But the conventional medical approach, having worked in it for over 10 years, or using my approach in the conventional medical system, I feel like I've earned my badge to offer this critique. It is particularly with regard to everything, but in pregnancy and the initiation into motherhood, its overemphasis is on the physical. Maybe there's a little bit of talk of mental health when it comes to medication management or postpartum depression, but it's primarily interested in the physical. There's a very limited definition of success, right? It's just to either get you pregnant, maintain the pregnancy, have a healthy baby. It's very masculine dominant. Nowhere is anyone talking about the experience of filling a womb and slowing down and resting and letting this miracle happen by itself, right? It's very intervention oriented, testing oriented. And it's reliant on the illusion of control and certainty, which is absolutely ridiculous in this field because modern medicine doesn't even know what starts labor. It's a mystery. Pregnancy, birth, it's all like you are the embodiment of the mystery. And the conventional medical system doesn't know what to do with that because they can't hold space for that. A lot of the stuff that I see going on in the medical system that I don't like is because of the economic and outcome interests, right? A fertility specialist gets paid if they get you pregnant. They become more popular and more successful if they get women pregnant. I think that in medicine, there's this patriarchal interpretation of feminism, and it's like it's stuck in the doing, right? Personally, I don't think that paying for women to freeze their eggs in their 20s and 30s is feminist. I think feminism would be give me a village and allow me to progress in a career that I'm passionate about and also be a mother at the same time, right? Don't pay for me to go through these invasive procedures, freeze my eggs, and then so I can spend my 20s and 30s like making you money, and then I can be a mother, right? That's not feminism to me. So, and then lastly, in general in medicine, there's just a poor understanding of the cyclic nature of hormones. And this will come into the talk of getting pregnant, because a lot of the time in the workup, we're testing hormones. And because a hormone looks one way at one point doesn't mean it's going to look the same way in a month. It's a dynamic cycle that's constantly moving. And the medical system doesn't really know what to do with that. And unfortunately, I think sometimes they latch onto a number that doesn't look good without actually looking at the full picture. So I'm not saying that there's like no value at all on the conventional paradigm, but there's something really, really big being missed, especially just with regard to the fact that pregnancy and motherhood is a spiritual initiation. It's a deeply hormonal experience, which is a deeply emotional experience. It's an emotional revolution, really. And it really requires balance. I think to be an older mother and do the dance of medical care and take care of yourself requires deep inquiry, real commitment to self, and a lot of education. And it's a big ask. But what I'm calling for is greater emphasis on the emotional and spiritual experiences of all four stages, less doing, more being. And so for me, in my practice, everything is about balance. And I just said this, I jumped ahead, but it's all about balance and looking at things holistically. And so I want to sort of jump into that. And then I do want to come back a little bit to my story and tell you a little bit more about my experience with these four stages. So this is the way I look at health. And if you want to go deeper into this, there's other opportunities. You can see my contact at the end of the presentation. But what feels really important to me is that we're looking at all of this with regard to each stage. So it's not just about the physical demands of a woman over 35 or 40. It's also about the mental quadrant of self, our thoughts and our beliefs about every stage of the initiation into motherhood, the emotional experience, and how we actually start creating an emotional field that magnetizes in the soul that will become our children. Right? And then what are the spiritual implications of all of it? I mean, if you want to talk about God, like there's no way to get closer to the experience of unity consciousness than being pregnant, right? You are literally living your life one with another human being, right? So during pregnancy, first of all, during conception, you create life from the void, right? You create something from nothing, which is an absolute miracle. Then you are one with another life for, in my case, 42 weeks and 3 days. And then your body becomes an actual portal for this life to enter the earth plane, which is wild and amazing. And then you are like two hearts. You're like one heart in two bodies. Your heart cracks open, and all of a sudden, like you're walking around with your nervous system completely synced to another human being. And you actually, as a mother, have some agency over when that wound of separation occurs in your child. You literally are playing God. So, to talk about the initiation into motherhood, any stage of it, without including the spiritual piece, to me is like completely crazy. And I don't know if we have any moms in here who went through the medical system, but I've worked with enough of them to know that that piece is not being mentioned. So I'm going to take you through each stage here briefly, with the, little side note that in the luminescence program in my course, this is what I want to go into in more detail. And it's not, really limited to women over 35, but I really want to highlight the differences for women over 35. And I want to give you here today a little example of like what I mean by this. So, in the getting pregnant stage, the conception stage, from a medical perspective, they're big questions like, does it serve me to do lab work? Which, tests should I do? What does taking care of myself look like right now? Do I want to check nutrient levels and make sure my tanks are full of things like iron, B12, vitamin D? And if not, like, do I want to be using my nutrition to make sure that my tank is full, right? To become pregnant, we have to be ready to become another. We have to be full, right? The body is not going to get pregnant when we're running on empty, nor is it going to get pregnant when we're in a state of fight or flight, right? So looking at stress, if someone's had recurrent miscarriages, looking at the MTHFR mutation, how well do you know your cycle? Are there supplements that you might want to use or herbs to support you? These are all physical pieces. Then there's the mental piece, which I think doesn't get enough attention in the getting pregnant stage. The thoughts and beliefs about getting pregnant, right? And this is where the conventional paradigm and the cultural conditioning are like so poisonous, because if we believe that we can't get pregnant over 35 or it's dangerous, then like, why would we? And why would life want to come into that? Right? So thinking about our thoughts and beliefs, and then the emotional field, I mentioned this already, that this is deeply connected to our thoughts and beliefs. But are we working with practitioners who are making us feel afraid and anxious? Or are we working with people who are cheerleading us? Are we safe in our partnerships? What are the emotions that we're bathing ourselves in and generating to actually magnetize in a soul? And then there's the spiritual question of that. Why would or wouldn't life want to come through you right now? Who is this pregnancy really about? I've worked with so many women who have had challenges because they wanted to get pregnant because they thought it was like the right thing to do, right? They got married, they checked this box, and now this is what you do. Or their parents or their in-laws are nagging them to have, they want grandchildren, right? But like, that's not really what they wanted. So we really have to think about the intention. Like, are you real? Is this about me, the mama, wanting to become a mama? Or is this about me stewarding a new life? Because different souls are going to be attracted to those two different things. And or the body may not want to get pregnant if it's coming from your wounds, right? I want to be a mother because who I am right now is not enough. That's not really a place to conceive from. So we need to think about all this stuff, right? For me, this is what a holistic approach is about. then there's the being pregnant, right? And you know, being pregnant can be a beautiful experience. It can also be uncomfortable, right? So, how do we take care of ourselves? Do we realize, and at what point in the pregnancy do we let the baby slow us down? Being pregnant, pregnancy is a state where like it's almost easier to listen to your inner voice. The intuition can be so loud if you let it, with regard to your nutritional needs, what types of movement feel good, right? There's not always a playbook for this. So you're really forced as a mama to start to listen to your intuition while you're pregnant. You're forced at every stage. But I think pregnancy and birth, that's part of the initiation, because once your child is born, like you are the only authority. They chose you as the mama. And so no one knows the answer but you. And part of this whole initiative process is starting to like really trust yourself, because there are moments where you're like, something's going on with my kid, and I know, and maybe a pediatrician is telling me I'm crazy, or maybe other moms are projecting on me that like what their experience was, and like I need to be able to turn those volumes down and trust what I know about my child, right? So we start learning that in pregnancy, and often that requires what I wrote here in the mental. Actually, I didn't write it, just in the mental, but this idea of sort of detoxing your life, your field, getting rid of all those foods that you have aversions to, detoxifying your thoughts and beliefs, sometimes distancing yourself from people that create tension or fear, or you just don't feel good around. Sometimes, you know, for me, I was actually really fortunate to be pregnant during the pandemic, because like I didn't have to deal with like a lot of sensory stimulation. I was home all of the time. But prior to that, I lived in Brooklyn, right? And I could not imagine being pregnant and getting on a subway, or, you know, walking the busy streets of Manhattan. I was so sensitive. And so this is a time to really like think about what you need there. And when we're over 35, a lot of the time we're at a place in our careers, our homes, our families, our finances, where we're actually able to create the boundaries and control we need to protect that space for ourselves, so we can really start to listen to the inner voice. Also, like pregnancy is an emotional time. Hormones are changing, and this is a time to really start feeling the waves, learning to feel the waves. Because I'll tell you, if you don't learn to feel the waves when your kid is a toddler, I'm deep in this right now, he's 2.5, you will suffer, because there are big waves all the time. And our bodies in the state of pregnancy and the hormonal shifts teach us how to like hold this space. And lastly, I mentioned this already, the spiritual experience of oneness. What a gift to experience that while we're alive. Okay, and then there's giving birth, right? So I'm gonna share a little bit of personal information here. For me, the first 2 stages of this initiation were absolute magic. My partner, Paul, and I, we met when I was 37, 38. On my 40th birthday, I announced I wanted to have a baby. He still wasn't ready. Later that year, he became more ready. And in a plant medicine ceremony that Victoria may have even been in, I don't remember, we both received the same message from a tree in the Amazon, calling us to the Amazon to go do a master plant dieta before we conceived. We did that very soon afterwards, and then we came back to we came back as we were sort of integrating back into life. The pandemic hit. And we decided to take a pause before we conceived and just sort of understand what was going on in the world. And then right after that, my partner's father was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. And he got the news and came home to me and said, "It's time. I want my father to meet our son." We conceived on my next cycle. Consciously, we did a whole ceremony around it. And I knew immediately. I said, "I'm pregnant." It was beautiful. It was effortless. And then the pregnancy was also beautiful. I mentioned I spent quite a bit of time. I will say this, because I know we have some pregnant mamas. For me, I had a point in the pregnancy where I felt like I could almost like smell how close to oneness, to God, to the mystery I was, but I couldn't fully taste it. And my old practices of Kundalini yoga and meditation weren't getting me there. And ceremonies like plant medicine, I felt I did not want to bring that into my pregnancy. So I went to Kauai and I found everything I needed in Mother Nature, and learned just so much from being on the land and in the ocean about what it is to be a mother, to hold space for children. So that was really beautiful. And I I was working with a midwife. I had plans to do a home birth, and it never for even a moment occurred to me that I would give birth anywhere other than my living room floor. And this is where the part my initiation got out of control, right? Because that's what a spiritual initiation is. You are not in control. And what happened with me is I went 42 weeks and 3 days, and I did not go into labor. And I ended up transferring to the hospital to induce labor. And still had a really empowering, like laboring, 13 hours of laboring. And then for various issues with my son's position, ended up in a C-section in the last minute, which was my only fear about the entire process of becoming a mother. I said, I cannot have a C-section. I will not have a C-section. And I had really, really righteous beliefs about it that I had to face at the final hour, and actually surrender and trust this medical industry that I was incredibly angry at and did not believe in. And, that was a really, really big piece of the initiation for me, was like letting go. And I was moving through my preparation for labor thinking that this was my birth. And my son came in and he said, "Nuh-uh, you had your birth 42 years ago. This is my birth. And I'm going to come into the world the way I decide to come into the world." And he is now saying, "This is my life, and I am going to like the things that I want to like, and I'm going to live my life." And, and I realized how much I was taught really quickly in that moment when I had to like give up my dream of my home birth and go into the hospital. Regardless of how you birth, I think, this is a big one for women over 35, right? And how we want to prepare for things, from pelvic floor to what makes us feel safe, to how we tolerate pain and discomfort, preparation for intensity. For me, my yoga practice and my work with plant medicine and ceremony were like the two most profound teachers for me to help me like be in those moments of intensity and actually turn it from pain into pleasure. And how we regulate our nervous systems and just like stamina in general. Labor can be really long. If we end up having C-section, recovering from that is a different story when you're 42 than it would have been when you were 28, right? We just heal slower, recovering from a vaginal birth too. We heal a little bit slower. So we just need to like think about those things. If we're doing a vaginal birth, you know, really moving slow and avoiding tearing, I think is more important when we're older, because the healing is just not as quick as it once was. Of course, giving birth, our thoughts and beliefs about it, you know, and I was a really interesting case where with every ounce of my being, I thought and believed I would give birth at home. And it wasn't like I needed to do work there, but for me, the initiation was like sort of letting go of some of my more righteous beliefs and my judgments about hospital birth, because I really did have them. And, you know, and lastly, I mentioned this already, and when you give birth, your body becomes a portal for consciousness to change form through. And like, that is unbelievable, however it happens. So, bringing in tolerance for the mystery and openness to the miracle, and it not ending up the way that you planned it is a possibility, which I now know in an embodied way. And then the last stage, the fourth stage, this is the one that's kicked my butt far beyond the other ones, the first 12 months of life. And you know, just unique considerations in older age. Like, I mean, I continue to have a kid that doesn't like to sleep, right? Sleep deprivation in our 40s is a little bit different than sleep deprivation in our 20s, right? Our adrenals and our cortisol, melatonin rhythm, like it doesn't bounce back quite as fast as it did when we were younger. So like really preparing for that, like spending more time outside, maybe taking longer maternity leaves, if that's even a possibility, and really preparing for the reality that recovery can be slow, especially when you're on an infant schedule. Weight loss and weight management can be slower. It can be more challenging. And so just really like supporting this possibility. And I'll talk a lot more about ways to do that in my class in the program. Mental thoughts and beliefs about being a good mom, right? Like this is a big one. Mom guilt, shame. You learn a lot really fast once your baby is born. You don't have a choice. Dad has a choice. Dad can like sort of float in and out. Mom is on the second that baby enters the world, 24/7. And mom cares, right? And all of a sudden mom's like, oh my God, I didn't know anything about this, nor do I have time to learn about this. And I can listen to my intuition about this, but I think a lot of moms get into this question of like, am I doing it right? Am I going to harm my baby? What does he or she need? You know, and then like you get into these conversations. Should I sleep train? Should I have a nanny? Should I pump breast milk? And, you know, we really have to be careful with like overthinking what is so innate in us. Every human being alive was mothered. Like we know how to do this. And so getting out of the overthinking, that like sort of yang dominance of really our culture. And then emotionally, this is a really big time, you know, from feelings like mom guilt to postpartum hormone changes to the social isolation that happens for a lot of new moms. You know, we're not living in villages like I would like us to. And it's a really, really difficult time for a lot of new moms emotionally. And then spiritually, it's profound. It's like, I was a meditator before I was a mom. I thought I knew what presence was. I had no idea what it really means to be present. And your baby pulls you into presence in so many ways. And you see a lot of like moms out there the super moms, right? They're having babies and writing books and running businesses. And I have a lot of anger and resentment toward that narrative, because like, if you're doing that, you can't be present with your newborn. It's not possible, because that's not presence, right? So really thinking about like, this is an ego death, right? It's a death of who we once were, at to move into this devotional path of taking care of our children. And that's a deeply spiritual experience. And also, I think for a lot of moms I know, we feel a lot of anger and a lot of resentment at the world, at the system, at our partners. And just sort of like learning how you want to deal with that and how you want to channel that. So it's not, projected onto your baby, who is like just so supple and such a sponge at that time. And so, for me, I discovered my anger. I discovered like the Kali in me in the first 12 months of my son's life. And initially that was like a really hard thing to discover, because I was like, I'm so in love. I have so much joy. I don't want to be angry at this time. And but what I ended up doing was like channeling it toward my own gratitude for mothers, like mothers that I know, mothers in my life. My own mother passed away when I was young, but also the great mother, right? To think that like Mother Nature is providing for us, all of us, 24/7, every moment of every day, and how infrequently I say thank you. Right. And so I started kind of turning my anger and resentment toward it all to like my gratitude and appreciation for Mother Nature. And that really helped. And so I think we need some sort of practice there. Uh, and Okay, I see we have a few minutes left. I'm almost done here and I'll move on. But yeah, the spiritual dynamics of like being a new mom in those first 12 months are profound and complicated. It can be a really complicated time. So we'll definitely talk a lot about the implications of that over 35. Last notes, just, and again, this is what I'll go into more deeply in the class, but a holistic approach with special considerations for older women, right? And so like we can talk about all the increased demands, but we can also talk about the advantages, right? In the physical, like knowing what your body does and doesn't need, knowing when it's time to seek support or intervene, teasing out the beliefs and conditioning that aren't serving you, taking responsibility for and creating the emotional field that you want to experience this whole initiatory pathway through. And then lastly, like the spiritual piece, just becoming a mother and a wisdom keeper at nearly the same time, right? Because that's sort of what's happening in our 40s, and embracing motherhood as a devotional and spiritual path, as well as an opportunity to heal the next generation. And I'll run through these really quick. These are my strongest recommendations for those of you who are on this path. Find stories that inspire you for each stage of the initiation. Listen to them, bathe in them, and drown out the rest. Create strong boundaries that protect yourself from conditioning, stories, messaging that doesn't support what you want for yourself. Set reasonable timelines for yourself regarding when you want to change course. In other words, like prepare a little bit more than I did. Choose a care team that you trust and feel aligned with, and that makes you feel safe. right? So if that's a team in a hospital, that's a team in a hospital. If that's like a birth keeper and you're planning a free birth, like that's the path. But create safety for yourself. Use your language thoughtfully. I never once said that I am trying to get pregnant. I just said, we are conceiving this weekend. And so it was. Be prepared while being prepared to be unprepared, because this is the nature of initiation and the mystery. Create a sense of safety for yourself, but not without deep self-inquiry, right? So if you're like, I feel safer having, a hospital birth, like give yourself a moment to explore what that really means before you really decide that that's like your safety zone. Acknowledge motherhood as an initiatory path. Trust yourself as much as your child does. And remember that not all 4 stages will be hard, nor will they all be easy. And I put this in there because I thought these might be questions. But what I'll do is I'll just I'll pause, right? Victoria, are you gonna chat for a little bit now and then we're gonna do questions, or are we gonna do questions first?
Yeah, maybe I'll fill them in for 5 minutes and then we'll do questions. And you've just put so much, so much here. So maybe that gives you all a few minutes to also feel into your questions, what's stirring in you. Is this something that you want to touch in the questions part, Erica?
Well, I say let's hand it over to you. If these don't come up in the questions, we'll just take the questions. And if they do, then I can talk about them a little bit more.
Amazing. Amazing. Wow. Well, I personally can't go any further with just, oh gosh, so many feelings and such reverence for everything that you've touched on, Erica. These are the conversations that
Yeah,
aren't.
it started an hour ago, but it'll be good because we'll get to watch the replay.
You're muted, Victoria.
Oh, strange. Okay. You all hear me, yeah?
Yeah.
Now
Yeah. These are the conversations that aren't being had. And I think that if everyone who's considering conception were coming to spaces like this to have these conversations, to listen to these stories, our world would be so very different. I love all the things that you touched on, Erica, and especially the piece about trusting our babies and asking ourselves, why are we having children? And detoxifying the mind, detoxifying the thoughts and the beliefs, because what has been informing my stewardship of luminous birth. If you don't know about luminous birth, you can just go to luminousbirth.earth and learn a little bit about it. Is my attunement to the consciousness of the souls that are coming to earth. And I've been able to communicate with unborn and unborn, conceived and preconceived babies since I was a baby. I believe that we all could and can. I just didn't forget. And it's very clear to me, the souls coming to earth right now are very clear about what their needs are, and they need us to cultivate a willingness to be changed and trust them. And if we do not trust ourselves, we cannot grow human beings who trust themselves. If we will not self-direct our lives, we do not cultivate human beings who self-direct their lives. And so after many years of helping people prepare for birth, and I still do that, and I love to do that. It's a great honor and privilege to be part of people's lives from even before they're born, and the amazing, powerful heroes of our time who are choosing the path of motherhood. I really do bow to you all. What I've learned is that, the preconception period, we have Anne Diamond Weinstein here, and she wrote one of the most seminal books. She's also a facilitator in luminescence, which I'm just about to present to you in a 3-minute presentation, but she wrote one of the most seminal works on preconception development, the way in which our parents' lives before they conceive us directly inform our psychoneuroimmunoendocrine development. So that book is called Prenatal Development and Parents' Lived Experiences, How Our Early Events Shape Our Psychophysiology. So I became very aware early in my birth work career that preconception informs conception, which informs the pregnancy, which informs the birth, and all of the above inform the lifelong that follows after that. And so, yeah, if we are choosing parenthood in this lifetime, whether it's now or in years from now, I think it's a really good idea to begin asking ourselves questions. Because I think that we're stepping into a new time where we're stepping out of a parenting paradigm, and we're stepping into not parenting or raising kids, but rather cultivating human beings. And that is an inner process. So I would love to share it with you. I've been working on what Erica where Erica is going to teach so much more about the topic that she just briefly touched on. Here we go. I'm going to just share my screen. This will take about 3 minutes, and then I'll hand it right back over to you, Erica. Share. Okay. So does everyone, can I get a thumbs up, Zoe?
No, it's black for me.
Okay. Okay, how's that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I've created a program, a preconception program called Luminescence Fertility and Pre-Procreation Program. And this really is a journey of transformation and empowerment in fertility and family creation. I've been saying luminescence is so much more than a program. It's really a new dawn in fertility and preconception care. So this is a live cohort. It's a 13-week live cohort for individuals and couples to ignite their fertility and move towards a natural conception. It's really carefully designed to give you the best of both worlds. You get live interaction with the world-leading experts and people that I believe are true luminaries of our time. You get live interaction with them, but there's a very minimal time commitment. It is impossible to convey the value in this program. These are individuals who have pioneered their fields, who have 20, and most of them have 40 and even over 50 years of experience. Most of these people are inaccessible outside of luminescence. A couple of them came out of retirement. And so, yeah, we have Kate Birch, who I introduced. She's here with us. She's got 3 decades of experience. She was in homeopathy, and she was the first to bring homeoprophylaxis, which is homeopathic immunization, to America in 2008. She's authored many books about this very important topic and has taught hundreds of homeopaths worldwide. We have Poppy Burr, who is an incredible hormone specialist and medical herbalist. There's a masterclass on the website, luminousbirth.earth, that you can get to if you want to see her. I mean, she's just absolutely a wealth of wisdom, and I think it takes people an entire lifetime to cultivate the wisdom that she's cultivated in such a short amount of time. And we have Anne Diamond Weinstein, which is someone I hold so dear to my heart. She was with me. Her textbook that she wrote, which is just a masterpiece, was with me as I was laying in my hammock in long periods of isolation and silence in the middle of the jungle of Peru. which I did for extensive periods of time over the last 10 years. And so she finds herself in this work. Stuart Savatsky has deeply dedicated his life to the preservation of fertility consciousness, fertility wisdom, and he has spent over half a century not only preventing but reversing divorces in some of the most worst case scenario possible. There's a masterclass that we did yesterday, that if you would like the replay, please reach out to me personally. So if you could put my email address or the email address, communicate one, that would be great. And you know Erica Matluck now, she is contributing. Zenny is, I mean, when it says chant leader, it's impossible. Just go to the Luminescence page and read about her. She has learned and studied for decades from some of the true living masters of our time when it comes to sound, and Tibetan medicine, Ayurvedic medicine. She's bringing in an incredible piece on Ayurveda, which she says is really the theory of everything. Paula Zuazua founded Early Life Epigenetics. She's an epigenetic specialist and is bringing in an incredibly important piece to empower all of you with all the information that you need to have freedom of choice based on all the knowledge of all the alternatives to navigate the big realm of comprehensive functional medicine testing. Do I need testing? If so, what and why and how that all works? And then Barbara Essman, she is an incredible elder with over 55 years of experience of preserving birth wisdom. She's one of my main mentors. I lived on Kauai for a couple of times in my life and apprenticed with her in person. The only way that you can learn from Barbara is if you fly all the way to now Oahu, in one of the Hawaiian Islands, and hopefully get a spot in one of the 4 spots that she makes available in all of her incredible classes. She's bringing in this, I think, most important piece, which is, there's no most important, they're all important. This is so integral. It is the man's role in birth and family creation. So I said it's a really minimal time commitment. Essentially, we have classes on Wednesdays and 1 to 2 Thursdays each month. You're going to get a bonus class. Every month we have a community call, which is an opportunity for you to have yet again live access to the facilitators and bring all of your questions, your concerns, your fears, your personal experience forward, and let us blanket you and wrap you in support. You get lifetime access to all of the recordings. And this cohort, it's opened and closed as a ceremony. There are dimensions of consciousness that uphold this program. And one of those are that we are intentionally asking for the incoming consciousness. We are welcoming a new consciousness on earth, and luminescence embodies that. Ultimately, the consciousness of the souls that are coming in and are maybe choosing all of you who are in the program to guide us. And so if you would like this presentation, I can send it to you, so that you can just get an overview of what is inside of this program. It's really unparalleled. I don't know of any prenatal program or preconception program that exists that gives so much education with such an embodied awareness of the importance of things like love and relationships and the man's role in this whole big world that we live in. And our own births, a piece of this is you will get to revisit and heal your own birth and pre-birth experiences, your own conception and preconception experiences, so that you can really write a new story. So if you want to be part of this extraordinary constellation of the first ever inaugural round of luminescence, you're going to be in a live field of real pioneers in the fields of fertility, epigenetics, intergenerational healing, naturopathic, functional medicine and homeopathy, immunology, Ayurveda, medical herbalism, pre and perinatal development and health, love, relationships, and more. And the piece that I bring in, which is a little bit of everything encapsulated in that paragraph, as well as the psycho-spiritual dimensions of conception, pregnancy, and birth. And just to close out here, this is for anyone on the journey of considering parenthood in this lifetime, whether you're struggling with fertility health or to conceive, whether you are just so ready and you want to maximize your health and bulletproof your relationship before having a family, if you're single and still entering the stream of magnetizing the one, if you're choosing assisted reproductive technology and want to navigate that process really consciously to enhance treatment effectiveness and nurture spiritual connection along that journey. And if you're a healthcare provider like Erica, if you're a holistic practitioner or you serve mothers, parents, families in any way, I really mean it when I say this is the frontier of where we're heading. And this program will continue to deepen and evolve with the needs of humanity over the next years. This is really just the beginning. We start in a few days on January 7th. And the first 3 people that enroll after this class get 50% off. The code is right there. I activate it as soon as the call is over. And once those 3 purchases have gone through, the code will expire. We are so incredibly excited to go on this journey with you. And I thank you so much for listening. Our mission really is to support the heroes of our time. And when I feel into luminescence, yeah, I see this tree I see all your great grandchildren who are our future ancestors. And I envision us as the village, just wrapping our arms around, who I think really are the architects of our future, which are those who are choosing parenthood. So together we get to do this. Please, Zoe, put the links for luminescence, the coupon codes and everything. And Erica, I think you have some questions about luminescence, questions about everything that Erica has talked about. It's so strange to talk that fast. I really do my best to fit it in a short time frame. So for the first time, we don't actually have a lot of questions. Do we have any, Zoe? No, okay. If you guys think of questions, also Erica is an incredible clinician and she leads absolutely like world-renowned retreats and healing capsules in various forms, remotely, online, and in person. And I can't recommend enough reaching out to her, follow her. It's a really beautiful, high vibrational field to enter. And yeah, do we have any final closing comments, questions?
It was really wonderful. It's great to hear everything.
Thank you, Kate.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, Erica, I'll let you close it here.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us. And I also had put my contact up there. I think Zoe also threw it in the chat. If anything comes up later, feel free to send me a note. And wishing you all ease and beauty and expansion and more on this initiatory path, if it's something that you're desiring. And if you are at any stage of that process, just, know that like, if it's a lot or it's difficult or it's bringing up all the stuff, it's because you're doing like the true work of God. I mean, it really is. There is no work that is more profoundly impactful than being a mother. So with that, I thank you all, and thank you, Victoria and Zoe and everyone who is putting this incredible program together.
Thank you so, so much, Erica. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for sharing your precious, sacred story, Erica. Blessings, everyone. Ciao. Bye.